Welcome to the Queen Divas, Queens of Fitness podcast. Join your hosts, three-time WBFF world champions and WBFF royalty, Alicia Gowans and Stephanie Ayala McHugh, as we explore all things female health, training, competing, mindset, and living the fitness life every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the latest edition of the Queen Divas podcast with my beautiful co-host, Stephanie Ayala McHugh, where we discuss all things health, fitness, and wellness. And today we're just literally catching up after having had a few weeks of just not being able to get online and coordinate times that fit for this recording. So I've missed your face.
I missed yours. Last time I saw you, we were actually, getting together for lunch and doing like this treasure hunt thing that we were like searching for gold. And just to recap, you guys, like the Orlando show, after the show, we actually ended up having a little catch up with George and Christos and Ali, myself and Carrie, and we went on a treasure hunt. It's like an escape room. I've never done one before.
How good are they? No, but you guys were incredible. And how hooked are you now? Now you know that we will do one every single location we're at with you guys, because there's so much fun.
It was like you use your brain. You actually have to like use clues and work as a team. Yeah. It was a nice little bond, I guess, like for us to have a catch up.
Well, because we worked well with you two. So you guys were really good to work with. And so we were able to get out so much faster. Like we've been in situations with different people because we play these every single country we go to and every single
experience.
We play at least one room, sometimes 3 different locations. And, we've played them with a lot of different people, and we have been stuck in some because you just get people sometimes that have got no clue about problem solving skills and also don't coordinate well as a team. So they'll go isolated individual things. And
I can see that.
If you're not filtering that communication back, you're not getting out of shit, mate.
Oh man, we were smashing that room. Oh, it was fun. If anyone hasn't done an escape room, because I was a newbie, I had never done one. It was very, very interesting. There was like lots of options. I thought that was a pretty cool, neat thing. We went on like a treasure mine hunt?
Yeah, we did like the gold one. We had to find the gold because the guy had died. So we were getting out.
It was cool.
All the locals try to steal it from us. So that was a cool one. But I tell you what, still the best one to this day that I have ever done. But I'm a horror freak, right? So I love everything scary as shit. I know, I do. I love it. So we did this one, Annabelle, in Singapore.
Oh God, I just cringed.
Let me paint this picture for you. There's a baby singing a little lullaby, but like a real baby, like I'm talking like 2 or 3, the whole way through. But every now and then it cries. And
Ali, I would just,
dark room. And Annabelle, this big doll, is on this chair inside behind this glass case right in front of you, right? You get through a certain part of the room and all of a sudden the whole room goes dark. The song she's singing, the lullaby, becomes like demonic sounding. And then the lights come back on and Annabelle's gone. It's freaking scary, eerie. And
opposite from Ali.
It's scary.
I hate I hate scenarios like that. And you will not pay me to watch a horror movie.
You know what's worse? After Annabelle disappears, this little chute opens up and there's all cobwebs and you're climbing underneath where she was. And it's in like, so if you're claustrophobic, you are absolutely screwed. It's literally maybe like, a fire hole or like a drain pipe on the street type big.
An escape room.
Then you go into this other room, and in the other room, there's all like these dolls' heads that have been ripped off in places. Like,
what are you even looking for? Are you looking for Annabelle?
You're trying to find your way out, and you are looking for Annabelle. You're trying to find Annabelle.
You can't sign me up and you cannot pay me money to do that. no amount.
What made it really eerie was just that it was the lullaby, and then like sounded like demonic stuff coming through it. Like it was really
Ali, what are you talking about? It is.
Yeah, it was. It was really spooky. That was probably our most scary. And then we did another really cool vampire one. I think we did that one in Japan. That was sensational too.
So you're into a lot of, actually knowing Christos too, you guys are into like sci-fi and having kind of more of that style realm. I'm like completely opposite. I'm like, give me the real deal. If it's a real story, it's true story. It came from, you know, obviously based. I think for me, it's more of that. And I don't know, I just don't do well at all. So anyone that wants to ever give me a gift, never give me any type of Chucky or, you know, what's that guy that was always, I don't even know, Freddy Krueger. I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
You know, like, just do not. Or I guess
my favorite as a kid.
Gave you guys my kryptonite. But besides that, guys, I saw Ali at that escape room. And since then, we've just been dived into work. I mean, Catch-up game, I feel like actual ketchup. Like, I swear that might be freaking cheesy as hell to y'all, but I literally cannot catch up.
No, it's like that. And like we came back,
like I'm just in a
catch-up weekend. We had the Gold Coast show, you know, they were only like a week and a half or week, 2 weeks apart. And so it was hectic, busy leading into that. We had such a big show. It was amazing.
That was such a good turnout.
It was incredible. It was a very, very good show, but it was just really high quality show, like just really great physique. Awesome. So it was really a really good start to the year, you know, and it really sort of set the scene for what the Aussie year is going to look like, which is exciting. And, you know, look, we came away with some incredible results. We had 4 new pros here in Australia, which, like, if I'm really honest, right, winning a pro card in Australia is like winning a crown overseas. It's like that hard to do. There is like, you've got sometimes 50 people on stage with you, 50. And anyone that's listening to this from overseas knows exactly what the Aussie lineups look like. They're rough. They're hard. They're like, it's intense competition. You don't look at the lineup and go, oh, yeah, she still looks 20 weeks out. There is none of that at all. It is like everyone is dice.
It happens.
Dice.
But not so often
like,
out there. I do agree.
It's no nonsense, right? So if you can get a pro card here, then, you know, and like as a coach, if you walk away with multiple pro cards here, it's like walking away with multiple crowns. It's pretty cool.
But Ali, just on that note, it goes to show that the caliber that comes out of Australia, if you do go pro, they're going to do really well here in the States. Like no matter what, any pro show, any world championships, like it's pretty proven, like just from, you know, history, that if you are an Australian pro, you guys are some pretty amazing badasses. Like you guys are.
People always joke there's something in the water. I think it's just like we're a country that's known for, you know, being sports based.
Oh yeah.
Like your entire life is built on it, right? So everything is
very health and wellness oriented.
It really is. Yeah, it really is. And I mean, I'm not talking like you guys have got an amazing sporting presence from a professional sporting
but we also have an epidemic of, you know, obviously
we don't seem to have as many Americans that are playing all the sports, if that makes sense. And all my years over there, I think that's probably the one thing that I've noticed, the gap between. Because for me, America, it feels like home because I feel a lot of the similarities between our two countries quite a bit. And, you know, it's very easy for me to assimilate there. But then the difference for me when I go, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, right, I'm reminded by that, is that we just grow up out in the sun, out in the park, out playing sport like all the time. Like it's super active. You're literally super active inside the womb. Yeah.
It's really just relative to what state you're out of here in, you know, the States. Like United States is so massive, and California, like me being raised in California and being born there, like I was out and about, always out in the sun. Texas still, I live in Texas. I've lived here for so long now. I'm out and about, although it's scorching hot. But there's just so many different times of the day that you can still make it doable and manageable to be in the, like in the heat, where as well, it's just like windy, you know, cold here. So no, it's more about like northern region definitely is just so much harder for them to get out in the sun. They don't really get the sun. It's like thinking of the North Pole. And I know it sounds drastic, but it's very much so like that. Canada, you know, all the northern states, it are mountains and ranges of like.
When I'm dealing with clients in that space and they're like, oh, Ali, and like, I'm not joking, for some of them, they can literally only go outdoors to do steps maybe 4 weeks of the whole year.
It's insane.
I'm like, wow, I can't even, I think I'd lose my mind. Like
they can't leave their house. They have to shovel themselves out of the snow.
That's exactly what one of my clients does. She's like,
I had a shovel.
Yeah, shovel with snowshoes. And she's like, I'm going to pick up my mail. I'm like, what are you doing? like, it's so cute.
It's a lifestyle that, I mean, I guess we're just not aware. Like, again, it's not really spoken of in the South as much. We're even thinking like, you guys are crazy. Like well, you guys know in Texas, we got that snowstorm and we had no plowers. Like we had to get people from the northern states to even get flowers down to us because we're not used to that and we're not, you know, technically prepared for it. But with that being said, you know, getting out and about, I think is what you guys are more known as a country.
Yeah, correct. I think
actively,
so.
You know,
and I think that's sort of, I think that's the biggest difference that I see. And so I think there's just a natural progression, right? And then the capacity, or maybe it's our lifestyle, I don't know, but you just have this ability to come in like an absolute beast. I don't know. It's
hey, the pros out there, again, kudos to all the amazing, you know, competitors that just competed, because if you did step on that stage, it is tough. It is hard. Yes. You are listening to Ali here how this is, you know, obviously a lot tougher to go up against maybe someone that's already been on stage a few times before. I saw that a few girls, that wasn't their first go around. It was actually like second or third attempt at a WBFF show there in Australia.
If I could actually touch on that for a moment, I think this is really important. And I have this conversation with all my team always. And we are known for doing this, for actually really critically thinking around the judges' feedback, because in Australia, unlike other shows, if you're in the top 5, you actually get some feedback, which is kind of nice, because then you actually have scope from the judging panel, and in particular from the head judge Pauline, where, you know, that's the actual feedback you want is hers. We get the indicators. Okay, we know we've got to tick these boxes next time. And a prime example of that was, you know, in the Open Fitness Taylor, and also in the 35 plus bikini with Asia this time round. They were both on stage a year ago, and we took their feedback and we nailed it. I'm talking like full nailed it. Now, these two girls sat outside the top 3, but in the top 5 of their shows last time. And they both went from like, you know, 4th and 5th place to 1st place pro card second time. And it's only because they didn't give up. Exactly. They didn't give up. They reversed out. They applied, you know, complete focus and dedication in their reverse recovery and off season. We had a very clear vision of where we were going and what feedback, you know, we were like listening to, and how we were directing the off season prep according to that. And we absolutely nailed the improvements that were required to come back and take it. Now, if you are not as dedicated as that, you might be coming back 2-3 more times. Or I should preface that to say, maybe your development is a little longer. So, you know, you might actually need a substantial extra little bit of mass there, which means it might not take you 1 year. It might take you 2 or 3 to build, right? So you might come back once, you might come back 2 more times. So my point is, always continue, and always look at the placing as a way to see where you sit for right now with your physique for right now. And then take the opportunity. If you're not in the top 5, you don't have judges' feedback, don't stress. You can still get the feedback from, you know, your coach, and you can get feedback yourself from your pitches, right? Like get your pitches, look at your comparisons, but don't give up, go away, work on the objectives that, you know, have been set for improving where you sit in that comparison lineup, and then come back and give it another go, right? Like I think it's super important. And when you're in Australia, you cannot have the attitude of, I'm getting on stage, I'm going to win, because that is
no one should. Like, I don't think any competitor needs to go with that mentality, because the moment you think like I should win, honestly, right there off, like out the gate, you're already going to be so sour when you don't win. Number one, right? You're just going to be so disappointed and think that you got robbed. I got robbed. I got my, you know, my pro card stolen. I got first place stolen. Like, you know, that's no such thing, because you already came in thinking you won. Like, you're a winner in your own world, not in the judge's eyes yet. Okay. Like, the judges are subjective, and it's really important to remember that you aren't just the value of what the judges actually place you. So you're putting that value in that, and then now you're labeling yourself as it. And even if you are a badass and you think like I should be, you know, first place, it's so much more to it. We've talked about this on multiple episodes about, and there's a lot of elements to the WBFF, right? Like there's more than just the physique. There's more than just your posing. There is some marketability. There is some fashion, you know, obviously involved, but take the notes and coming back, because there sometimes is a very big gap from that first place to third place. I
actually do want to say this though, like I've seen a couple of girls And anyone listening to this, actually, you all know that I judge international shows and you know that I judge worlds. So if you ever actually, like, I don't judge Australia, but I'm always open to give you my feedback on what I think. So if you want to send me a direct message.
Our eyes are a little different, right? I guess when we've been on the panel, it's like,
send me a question and I'll answer. Yep, I'll give it to you. And remember, I'm not giving you the feedback as someone judging that show. I'm giving you the feedback of what I'm observing and the way that I think that, you know, you could make improvements, right? So always question me if you want to ask something. But one thing I will touch on, which we haven't probably gone into much detail, I will direct you all back to some of those previous episodes because there are some really great ones where we do dive into this a fair bit, and I would suggest that you listen to them. But what I will say is this, and what I've noticed is this, which really concerns me a little bit. There were several girls that I've noticed coming back to stage. So this show, I think a couple of them might have been on stage for the third, sometimes the fifth time. And these are beautiful girls, okay? I've watched their evolution over the last however many shows they've been on stage. And there were a couple of them that I did not even recognize because they have bastardized their face so much, with so much shit.
Sorry, I don't mean to.
So much stuff that I'm like one of them I actually thought was stepping into 35 plus, right? And I just found out she's 20 freaking 4. And I'm looking at her going, oh, wow, you have literally aged yourself by over a decade by just putting too much shit in your face. And I feel like I need to say this because I feel
it's a requirement.
I feel like that it's my it's my responsibility to look after the young ones coming through as a role model and say, as someone that has very, very minimal shit and didn't touch her face until only a few years ago, don't fucking do it. You don't need to. Secondly, can I disclose that really quickly because some people do need it. Like, I'm sorry.
Yes, but I can't be. No one needs it because it does help and needs some girls.
These are ones that are just quintessentially beautiful to begin with, Steph. Like, and if I showed you the before photo, you'd be like, "What did they do?" You know what I mean? Like, and if you have that beauty, don't think that you need to go and put massive amounts of shit in your cheeks or your chin or somewhere.
You don't need those big lips.
You don't actually need that. And I know it detracts from your overall look and beauty. So when we're talking, and the reason I'm raising this, because we've just talked about how important that marketability is, I'm gonna touch on this. Beauty is a massive factor. When we're judging overseas, it is a massive
part of the acronym. Yeah,
and you could literally be standing there with an Australian level physique, which is off the charts ridiculous, next to someone who's far softer, and the softer girl is going to beat you hands down every single time if she looks more naturally beautiful. And what I mean by that is not geared, over geared, and also not over pumped full of shit into her face. And that's a thing. Like, it is a definite thing that gets assessed. So I just really want to say that unless you are someone that physically, yes, needs it because there's fat pad loss and a whole bunch of other things that would absolutely warrant it, and maybe don't do those things till you get close and you can see whether or not
that's exactly what I was going to mention next. You don't need it.
Don't do it
unless you actually lose some body fat levels.
Or go very minimal, very minimal effective dose on what you're putting into yourself, because Jesus Christ, it makes a difference. Like, I'm not joking. There were 2 or 3 girls where I legitimately thought they were like 35, and they were
not only face structure change, right? But then it just turns into this plastic look. And I think that's like what we're kind of even referring to. It's like, that's not needed. It's really not.
No, it's not. It's
going
not.
Back into
these girls are beautiful.
The Federation really stands for. It's beauty in all aspects, all forms. So if you want to look exactly like someone else, you're kind of taking that natural beauty away from yourself, right? So
nailed it.
Trying to find and just make sure that it's your look. It's yours.
That look.
Don't get rid of the chin. I'm like, oh, but I don't want this. Well, it's your chin, man. Like, it's obviously, what the way God created you, it's the way your structure is. And it's more, enhancing. I get it. I totally agree. Especially myself, when I end up losing quite a bit in my face over the years. I used to never even have anything going into my face. But I never needed it. I actually didn't need it. I really body fat levels, and that, again, were sufficient to kind of keep my face fuller. But after a few, dieting down and increasing back into reverses and actually increasing more lines and depth into these lines, they started getting a lot more aggressive in my forehead. They started getting to where,
but that's like a little bit of Botox, babe. That's different. Like I'm talking it's massive structural changes.
Oh, you're talking about like face reconstruction and stuff? Like, I mean, I'm just referring to like Botox filler and lips and stuff
everywhere. And anyway, it was the biggest thing that I noticed on this stage in particular, more so than any of the others that I've seen.
Girls, you don't need to do that.
Correct. Mainly because my 2 points here is you don't all need to do it. So don't automatically think it's a necessity and that you have to do it. You don't need to look GC is my thing here. To win anything, you don't. And in fact, when you go overseas, it's probably going to go against you if you look too GC. So don't do it, okay? Number 2 is when you are going to do it, think very minimal natural enhancements only. Don't go over the top because it really doesn't, it detracts from you and it really doesn't serve your beauty. It just looks very fake. And
that's what I was getting at, right? Like that plastic look, it's just not favorable. And I think that everyone's pretty transparent. Like, look that you want, like go for it, girl, do you. Honestly, not shaming on it at all, but you're not needing to do it. Like that's just something that is not a requirement.
And if it's going to make you older by having it, I don't necessarily think that's a great move when you're in a lineup for all these really youthful.
It is okay. You saying youthful, and I think that's why the women try to do it, right? They're like trying to, and I get the women that have maybe again a little bit more skin or have a little bit more wrinkles. That's completely something that's what it's there for, right? But not necessarily grabbing a young girl and saying, let's just pump a whole bunch of stuff in your lips and pump a whole bunch of stuff in your cheeks and make you different. It's not necessary. Please just know it's not a requirement. And going on to that, I think it's just the biggest thing that I've just noticed as a shift and change, just generally, is just these bikinis are getting just crazy outrageous with a whole bunch of stuff on them. Like, I'm like, guys, it's still, I know it's a fashion show. It's still obviously also a physique show for yourself. So making sure you're not like just doing nothing but garters and all these crazy things up there.
Well, as we know, we already know, because we know that Allison's actually raised this. She doesn't love them. She doesn't love the garter. She doesn't love the thing underneath the butt, and she doesn't love the long leg thing. So avoid them. Like I know what it can be like to look at it and be like, oh, well, so-and-so wore it and they're in the top, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's always being received well either. And it might not be something they want replicated. So again, this comes down to what we always talk about. Find your flavor, find your personality, establish your branding, and then roll with that. You don't need to look like anyone else. You can take inspiration from other people, but you don't necessarily need to emulate them. And, as we've touched on, try to just enhance your own natural beauty in whatever you're wearing or doing. Don't detract from it and don't completely change it, because it doesn't translate well, is where I'm trying to come from. But that was my biggest thing that I noticed in this one. I was like, oh gosh, God, these girls don't need to be.
It's gonna be there. I feel like it's just, again, part of them learning. Anyone that maybe just doesn't, obviously maybe take it well. It's just like, we're just trying to give you some advice. Things that we've been able to see these last couple of shows. We were just at the Pro-Am, the Orlando Pro-Am, together watching, obviously, the first season opener. Ali just watched the first show of the year of Australia, and we have LA Pro-Am coming up in 3 weeks.
100%. I'm super pumped for this show. I really wish we were going. We can't, because it's the exact same day as George's baptism, but we have an amazing team, and I've got an amazing team of my pros going to support the team that are actually competing. And we've got a great lineup of pros competing there. So I'm super pumped, and I'll link them in with you actually, Steph, just so that you guys can, stay high and look after them if any of them need anything, but they should all be pretty good. Got a good connection point there.
I'm excited for this show.
That's what I was going to say. I'm excited because this is you and I OG days.
Big circle. I know, that's exactly what I was going to bring around.
And
it's like
it's even full circle for me. It's even back at the Beverly, babe, which was like
same theater. Okay, y'all. Okay, just big blast from the past here. It's full circle for myself. This was my first pro show I ever did. And not only was it in the same theater, then it came to be that the following year, it was my first crown win alongside with Ali's second title win at the time. And it was just, again, like one of those wow moments. You really didn't think that you were going to, win the pro show. And that was also our first worlds together, because you can
the one after that, correct?
Yeah, together. So that's actually how Ali and I connected so well. So this is actually really our backstory of how Ali and I really became besties, because we were backstage. We were technically,
sharing. Actually, I think I was pretty much stealing your.
She had never had Reese's Pieces. Y'all, like, okay, this is
my first time.
I'm like, you've never had Reese's Pieces?
Never had.
Now, what are those? I was like, what's that? Give me that. And so I remember just looking at this Aussie and like, you cute damn thing and your little peacock feathers, because you were in peacock feathers at the time.
Feathers. Oh.
And I just remembered feeding her chocolates.
Yes, she did.
So that's how we
chocolate pimp.
Yeah, and that was our first crown win together. And I remember her staring at myself in lineups when I was talking to Christina Silva. This is actually an older, but I called her.
I love Christina. I miss her.
We were speaking Spanish, and Ali's like, y'all are just so hot, just speaking Espanol.
Just keep talking. It
was hilarious. I remember then just thinking, yeah, I like this Aussie. Like, I gave you chocolates. You're part of me now. You're part of our crew. Me and Christina were like, just, yeah.
Look, the LA show used to literally be the mini worlds, and it was the best show on the whole calendar turnout prior to Worlds. It was amazing. So it was our absolute favorite show of every year to go to. And then outside of Worlds, and after that, it was obviously AC, because that's just a vibe. It's in a crap location, but it's a vibe of a show.
It's such a vibe. It's shitty city. Okay, I take my word for that. It is a shitty city, but it's the most amazing show too.
So LA for me is super fun. And oh my God, I don't know if I ever told you the story about the last time we did the LA show, which was, I think, the very last one before COVID, where we got escorted out of the ghetto by the cops because 4 cars turned up because we were in so totally the wrong place, and obviously had no idea.
Long Beach.
And there was like guys with Glocks down the street.
Oh my God. And that was actually the drag, wasn't it the drag race in Long Beach, because they did move the venue location that time. But I just got a blast from the past memory of Facebook telling us our first crown win together. I'm gonna have to share it with you. It was the most cute thing of like, it made like this whole compilation of, again, like that show. And I was like, wow, that's again full circle to where we're going back now.
I know.
And it's gonna hurt me not having you there, because I know
I'm devastated. And if it wasn't for it being such a big day for George, then we definitely would have been there for sure. I said that to Paul and Allison. I was like, man, if it wasn't a baptism, we would be there for sure.
That's
on that note, he's like obviously stepping completely into himself, this little fella. We've got more teeth coming through. We've got baptism in a few weeks, and then we've got his first birthday, which is a Pokemon Pokemon pre-evolved Pokemon birthday party.
Birthday. Okay, listeners, if we can just kind of give a little moment. You guys have listened to her give birth to George, recover from it, and now
can you believe it?
Birthday.
We're planning the first birthday already. Like, where the hell has time gone, right? Like, it blows my mind. So we've been super busy. We've had all of that stuff going on, and he has literally been crawling and now trying to stand to walk. So he's into everything, babe. Like, I'm talking, not that I'm drinking and haven't been for a long while now, except for those few times socially since after AC, we haven't been drinking. And so we've got a whole cupboard full of stuff, and he keeps getting into it and trying to pull all these wine bottles out. And I'm said to Christos, man, we either need to like take him out and stick him in storage, or we need to find some way to lock this up, or this kid is going to be a raging alcoholic by the time he's 2.
Either or, if you take after mom, take after dad. I'm just kidding.
Oh my God, so
it's definitely important. So baptism, totally understandable.
Yeah. So
we'll miss you guys, but being a very busy show leading into Worlds, like you had said, it was a mini Worlds prior, and I feel like now, since there has been a couple shows leading into Worlds, meaning like there's the Orlando, and then COVID happened and Bahamas kind of took place as an international show, and now they just brought it back to Los Angeles. So
I'm so excited.
Oh yeah, it's more of like, I feel like this lead up to Worlds being that hype, because Worlds this year, I really feel it's going to be a big hoorah, and I think that because it is, and like my biggest, I guess I don't know. It was for me, I think emotions to catch up, because when I announced that I wasn't doing Worlds, like I think a lot of emotions didn't really get to simmer, if that makes sense. Like I had announced it on Orlando weekend. I really just didn't have time to kind of really
process it.
A team. Yeah, I was like
Process
just worried about the show and really worried about making sure travel and back home, catching up with work. And honestly, it didn't really hit me until like 2 weeks after that. I was like, shit, I'm actually not competing. I'm actually not competing, you know, because I knew I had already, you know, obviously announced.
That's how I felt watching
not really
get on stage in 2021 after 2020 and being cancelled, and I couldn't do my 4th title and defending. That was like, it was just such a crushing moment. I remember being so
it's weird. I'm not gonna lie. I feel weird.
It was like, and that's how I felt. It was like, this sucks. I'm sitting here watching this and I should be on that stage.
Oh, okay. On the note of that though, I'm kind of excited. The thing, I keep kind of changing my perspective. I'm like, you know, I've never watched the Worlds. No,
it's so much fun. It's actually so much fun.
I've never fully watched a production, and let me tell you, the production of a World is the next level.
Yeah, it is.
If you think you've been in a part of a show, it's not a show until you've done a World. So it's something that I can't put into words, because I mean, I've never watched one. I've only ever been part of it, right, on stage. So for me, it's like, oh crap, I'm actually going to be able to watch.
So that's how I felt. That's how I felt when I did the pay-per-view. I did the pay-per-view hosting of the 10th anniversary. And
remember you back down there. Remember you at the red carpet.
Yeah, I was the red carpet for all of you ladies, because that was after my back break. So I couldn't compete that year. And it was my first Worlds I'd missed since I'd gone pro. And it was so good to just sit in the audience and watch. I learned so much and I had so much insight, and I got to take away so many points that I applied to what I did in my off season, then leading into my next stage, and how I approached that prep really did level up, and it was invaluable to me. So, you know, it's definitely great to do.
Yeah, I think this is something for any listeners that are maybe curious or what a show looks like. If you're going to pick a show, go to the Worlds and watch it. Go to Worlds, fly into Vegas, make it a weekend trip, and actually go watch the show. And hey, I'll be in the crowd with you too. So it's more about trying to get that, like Ali said, experience of knowing what to expect, what the criteria really is, what the production looks like. And you really do get to game plan and maybe start, you know, picking the category that you think is suited best for you. If you don't know, there's coaches like Ali and I, you can always reach out to at any point and just make sure that you have, you know, of course, some guidance, or even at least some type of insight as for, you know, us that have been in it for a long time. We've watched the growth of each category as well as just transitions. There are some, you know, different things I feel like from year to year, they do change, right? And it's just because it's like a fashion industry.
Trends change, right? So same as fashion trends change, so therefore do sometimes the requirements and flow and energy and vibe and, you know, format for the stage. On that note, am I correct in saying that we now have a 45 plus division?
It is true, guys. Okay, so it's getting rolled out in LA. So it is a new category that they're now rolling out going forward. And it's an empowering, as you know, Ali, some of our women, they just kind of feel like, oh, I just can't go up against, you know, the girls that are, you know, younger, or I just don't think it's fair. And it's got bigger and more and more. And I found it to be incredible, because I do think that they have, you know, of course, their place.
Gives everyone so much longevity in the sport. Like if you want to, you can literally join when you're 20s and keep competing till you're in your freaking 40s and do 20 years.
Make it in life. Yes.
So it's great longevity. So I kind of look at it and go, that's fantastic. I think that's awesome.
It's going to be a great, I think, opportunity too for those women that were kind of being held back, like I was saying, you know, thinking, oh, but I'm not like 35s, or I'm not like the 40s. You know, they're actually 40 and I'm, you know, 45 or 50, you know, and I think that that's also another reason that it's going to be a very successful category, and it's going to be a new world champion, obviously, at Worlds. That's going to be another, it's going to really set the tone. So it goes into kind of, I don't know, that excitement for it's never too late. Never. I think that's really great too. You know, age is a number. And I think there's so many testimonies and, you know, people leading by example that the age really is truly a number. If you put the effort, you put your mind to it, and you put, commitment to yourself, right? Like a little more effort to yourself, your health. You're going to succeed, obviously in any type of prep, but this now gives you a healthy approach. It gives you, an experience of modeling. It gives you an experience of just glitz, glamour, and as well as beauty and a network that is unmatched. You cannot find these people.
It's just a really lovely way to give you an outcome and maybe a goal to focus on when you're looking at, improving health and you're looking at improving fitness and strength. But I think it's a really great way to prevent a lot of the issues we start to face as we age too, like sarcopenia and a whole bunch of things get, looked after if you're actually focusing on a sport like this, because what are you doing? A whole bunch of lifting, some heavy ass shit. Like I think it's super cool. So when I saw that, I was like, wow, that's actually such a great thing to do.
It's crazy. You just even, mentioned, a disease like that, because our girl that just won 40 plus fitness, she even has that. The reason why she trains and does this is because of that. It's more for you to actually have a purpose. And sometimes that purpose isn't like really there. And this gives us purpose. I know it gave me purpose for quite a while. And now that's why I kind of feel a little lost. It's like, I don't know what's going to happen this year as far as
breaking away from that identity.
But it is something that I'm excited for. And I know that it's going to give me a lot more growth, not just physically, but actually not so much of the physical, because I have so much recovery stuff and still healing to do, and a lot more, obviously a rehab work I have to focus on, but growth in other aspects, right? For us to be able to focus on other things that we haven't really focused on. So I think that's where my, mindset is
still hitting the photography. You're doing any courses in that?
That's actually been put on the back burner because I was so focused on my coffee, and I'm like, I feel like a pretty damn good barista nowadays. My coffee's coming out pretty damn good.
I just look, caffeine comes first always.
Yeah. And now I've been able to kind of start picking the camera back up. I actually did pick it back up in Orlando and was able to kind of, just get my experience with light. Oh my gosh, the damn lighting. I cannot stress that enough. I can just, oh my God, give kudos to any person that knows about lighting and photography. That shit is hard. Like, it is complicated. Your light changes, and now you got to change the lights in your ISO settings. And now you've got to change the, obviously. I'm like, oh my God, this is complicated. But it's true. One of the photographers told me, if you don't pick it up every day, you're gonna keep forgetting. And you know what? It is so true. And that's, I think, the reason why I've been able to do so much at the, coffee barista style, because I'm doing it every day. I'm actually making sure that I get that in, because I'm not gonna miss my coffee. So now it's like, okay, making myself, get more consistent with picking up the camera. So that has, like I said, on the back burner, but I feel pretty good. I took pictures of you. I took a couple of George, so I'm trying to make sure it's in my hand. At times it's actually
a little bit more hobby style, right? Versus dedicated. Yep, get you. But you'll probably loop back to it, I have a feeling.
It's coming, because now I have the summer, it's coming in, and I feel like I'm a big weather guy. I've told you guys that very much so. If it's gloomy out and it's shitty weather, I'm not a good person mood wise when the weather is crap. Like, if it's hot out, it's nice, sunny, I don't know, my mood just lightens and I feel much better. And so because of that, I feel like I've been kind of hibernating in a way. It's been weird here in Texas recently. Like, the spring hasn't really been the spring that we're used to. It usually doesn't spring and just goes straight to heat. It has been super rainy, super gloomy, and transitioning with a lot of just humidity, which is it's not bad. We need the rain here. We get really dry. So it's good for the plants, good for obviously the grass, and everything's looking nice and green. But now the, weather is starting to lighten up to where I can go outside and, make sure I think I'm a natural light type of person. I think I've realized that. Like, I don't really like a studio light and doing the ring light or kind of that type of harshness. I just really like natural settings and just using sun as my actual backlight or clouds as my, backdrop. So I don't know, that's figuring out my niche. So that's my next thing, right? My vibe and finding my style. And again, I'm not going to be a photographer. This is just for my own
very personal thing. No, I totally understand. I feel that way about yoga. I'm going to eventually do my yoga course, and it's literally, that's a personal thing. I'm not going to become a freaking yogi anytime soon, but I'm going to use it for myself and my own pleasure, because I love my yoga, right? So I do want to be able to get much better with my, my poses and my overall mobility. And I think it's going to benefit me in so many other ways. I can incorporate bits and pieces into some of the programming I do, but I'm never going to be like, I'm not going to go be a yoga instructor. Like that's just,
I won't see you in Mount Everest or whatever.
You won't see me up there doing the little, but it will benefit me, right? So I totally feel you. I understand that. But something I have done, which I haven't announced and I haven't put much around actually, is I've started more study. Like that surprises
really no brainer. I mean, hey, aren't we always in somewhat way studying though? I feel like, Ali, we're always digging ourselves into some type of material that just makes us better coaches. And we're like trying to learn and submerge ourselves to, you know, be more, you know, just involved with what's current, because I think that there's so much literature out that's from the past and just like, I feel like it still builds up myths in a way, you know, it's like what they've believed happens. And I'm like, reality is, you know, this is what's currently happening. What are you studying, Ali? What are you submerging yourself in right now?
Will probably actually surprise a lot of people listening to this. So I did some minors in psychology in my undergrad, and I always loved it, but it was more in, you know, organizational psych and organizational change and cognitive behavioral change with executive teams. And it was a very nuanced area. And it's definitely been something that has 100% supported and enhanced my coaching style, the way that I approach conversation and clients, all those things. So you can draw upon it, right? But I'm actually moving into the space of being able to, in time, do my psychology for athletes and performance. So what I've done though, to make it something that I can integrate into my business sort of very quickly within a 12-month process, I'm going to be accredited, recognized, and qualified through the Australian Counselling Association as a fully qualified counselor. And then I'll go on from there to bridge through to the rest of my degree. Yeah. Right. But it allows me to practice. And again, I'll throw it out. I'm not going to be putting out a clinic and a shingle and saying I'm, you know, in any way.
Not a practice. This isn't going to be like your practice.
It's not a practice. I'm going to become a full-time counselor or in time a full-time psychologist. Not at all. But it is going to integrate. You know, look, it's a helping-based therapy, and it's essentially talk therapy. So it's deeply rooted in dialogue and communication, you know, and it really allows you to be able to better understand and communicate through, you know, your team, your athlete, your general population person's issues. And in particular, some of the things that we really see are people that will advance so far and then they derail, and it's linked usually to behavioral patterns, you know, past history.
Trauma. It's like trauma from like that we just don't heal from,
inability to process or cope or work through a situation or a scenario, right? So there's this hamster in the wheel momentum that they get. So for me, I knew that was a gap and a loophole. So when I was thinking about what I wanted to study, this is definitely something that made sense to me, because it gives me frameworks and, you know, processes and actual structure around how I can deal with some of these things, you know, internally a little better. So super excited for it, and so far loving it. You know, I
love the fact that you're doing the, you know, just the whole internal work, right? Because that's just how we're wired. We're wired, and we don't realize that the things that we do or the things we're attached to has a lot to do with our past, our behavioral patterns, the wiring, just the way we're wired, and unwiring some of these things and learning how to do so. I mean, it's just like self-exploring and self-discovering, and it's like soul-searching. And I think that's such a powerful thing to be able to do. And I think, of course, in a professional way, right? Like, I think we should all be doing that. Like, we should all be doing that. 100%. But if you're not going to the right person that's actually, you know, qualified to be able to do it, guide you
as part of it too, it's also recognizing. And what I like about it is it doesn't mean that I need to be the psych doing, you know, some of the in-depth stuff, but it gives me the capacity to actually identify and then, you know, discuss what the next steps would be and provide that person with the right person to work with, you know, in a referral manner, so that you're actually able to get change. Because, you know, a lot of the times there might be systemic, deep-rooted stuff that you won't get to, but this process is like bridging the gap. It would allow me to give someone a safe space to be able to come out with something that allows me to go, okay, great, we now need to see this person, right? So, you know, for under no circumstances would I be trying to do something outside the scope of within which I could practice, but it does definitely give me the capacity to work with people through situations and scenarios that might otherwise derail them or prevent them from progressing, right? So exactly. And look, for me, I just love it. Like, I love transforming people's lives and being part of a big transformative change. And this just gives me the capacity to feel a lot more confident in a skill set and a system to help them move past stuff that, previously I might have been able to help to a small degree, but this will allow me to take them much, much further. If it's something that someone is willing to engage in, because that's the other thing. Like, when you're working through anything that's a help-based therapy, it has to be something that is a mutual engagement in the process, right? So anyway, it's super cool. I'm loving it. I'm excited.
It's different from, like, I guess, learning even the physiology side of things. Like, again, like, we geek out on that kind of stuff, right? But then now it's like learning and being able to just indulge in other type of breeds. I think that's super, super. For me, it's probably random stuff, like, to just kind of keep my brain a little,
stimulated.
Just stimulated, to where it's not like trying to learn, but it's not trying to like overly learn so much. It's still kind of light, and fun. I don't know if
mine's a bit deep and a little bit intense, but I just know it'll be worth it.
You need those moments, though. You need those. I think that it's very important. Like, and if you don't have those moments, you need to have them. If listening to this, like, really have to start kind of making sure that you ask yourself the harder questions. We've had episodes of that, right? Maybe even going back to some of those episodes of how we, speak to ourselves and those conversations that we have with ourselves and with others. And that's going to really, really help you. This is
the cool thing too, is that, when I finish this, I then go on to do my, graduate diploma and my advanced study majors, which is taking me down to specific areas of focus. And, like, there's lots of different options, from anything from trauma itself, which is, a massive Pandora's box of, where you can go with that. And it's the one thing that most people have, right? But then also into things like, mindfulness, addictions, into, eating disorders. And
those are a lot of scars, and that's a lot of wounds, and that's a lot of, obviously, they're tough. They're chains that we have. And I think that, again, that's internal work. And we preach about that a lot here. We make sure that it's not just the physical side of things that you're addressing, right? Like, you're doing. Well,
a lot of the times the physical stuff is yo-yoing and a problem because they haven't addressed some of these other things. So, this was one of the things for me that made me want to pursue this.
So your passion, and we're super passionate for what we do, which is why we keep trying to learn more and keep getting better coaches, right? Like, I think that's the reason why you and I both just mesh so well. Like, we just vibe with each other for that reason. But for you, it's like the psychology side. For me, it's actually the hybrid coaching side. So for me, it's actually thinking of, how can I make functional medicine not just be required and it be something your body can truly heal on its own? I'm just tired of really seeing this medical world, right? Like, technically diagnose you as well as label you, give you that Band-Aid, and just prescribe you medicine. And there's just so much that can be done through nutrition and through exercise, and really being able to heal yourself and get off of, essentially. And don't get me wrong, there are a lot of scenarios and, situations where you need, medicine. There is. I'm not anti-medicine. I'm not someone that's going to, give you bad raps about it. But I will say that usually the system, that's actually where my biggest issue is the system itself, of how it just sends you off, and there really is no finding the root of the problem. And there is so much more into digging in and finding out what is internally happening with your organs and with your hormones. And again, all these things that we've talked about multiple times here on the episode, you can always dive in and just go back. I think we've had plenty now. I love that all the episodes.
The library's pretty comprehensive with lots of different options.
Yes. But that helps me to, also have a purpose. And I think that, like what you're mentioning, you want to make your coaching more powerful through that psychology side, and being able to, help them break those, cycles or, chains that they may have, or issues.
Well, it's just a whole new stream that we inadvertently do, to some degrees, low-lying fruit, but this just lets us tackle and move some of the big rocks. once I'm done.
Everyone has them. Yeah. Everyone has that. And I think that's, again, depending on the mind, how weak or strong the mind is, that's the individual that's going to probably be suffering more. Doesn't mean that a strong mind can't suffer, but they don't suffer as much as a weaker mind does. So it's kind of course, finding
this process sort of allows me to practice once, I finish this first part. It allows me to practice and then just really settle in, hone my craft, decide how I want to integrate it most, where it's most effective, and where I can get the most out of it with my team and then I can pick back up in my Master of Nutrition studies, finish that and come back to this and decide where I want my actual degree niche to be, because there's heaps of different focus points. Do I want it to be performance orientated? Do I want it to be around disordered function? Like there's lots of different space for me to move. Specific things. But it just lets me do something with it and be practicing and covered and insured prior to having to go down a full 6-year investment of my time. This will kind of take 2 years off that, but allow me to be doing stuff with it, which I love.
So cool. And that's actually, again, like one of those focuses that I say, I don't have, the show as my main priority right now leading into the prep, or like into my rest of the year, I'm sorry. So no prep per se, it's just a recovery prep, I want to call it. I've also, kind of been thinking like, how am I going to, like I said about the hybrid coaching, and that's actually where, like I said, by the end of the year, that's actually kind of more. So we're going to be touching base back on this, guys, on how her studies are going, how my studies will be going, because we're going to be growing as coaches, as of course, as athletes, as, and overall, I think human, because we're trying to just better ourselves from inside. Right. So you can't hear what we're saying here. And again, from my side, it'll be more on like, it's going to be, I want to say medical, because it's not, I'm no practitioner. I'm not a doctor. That is not, the field I'm going down by any means. It would just be, again, that middleman, that person that's really trying to make sure that we are getting the right help and the right, approach to, that internal side of ourselves with organs and hormone health. And if you haven't even looked at, like, this is an amazing, it's called Metabolic University, and you'll be able to kind of look at that. And if anyone been, obviously looking at, Vince Pitstick and, Alan Kress and just incredible, again, just leaders in the industry that are making that movement, joining that movement. So you guys know that will be like more of where I'll be headed, and more going into that direction, because that is more of my, again, it's what
we would classify here as integrative health.
Okay. All right. So I'm like, that would be, I guess I would call it hybrid coaching here, because there's really no, there is no, there isn't coaches many like that, right? Here
it's quite a big presence of it in Australia, but I mean, that doesn't really shock you, because Australia's
you guys are very health oriented.
Yeah, we are very health oriented. We actually have coaches here that literally just do blood panels, blood work, integration of, they basically do almost like, it's not the right term to say allied health, but it's like an alternative, and they'll take through, food optimization and
making sure the gut is, functioning properly. We're going to go through some, obviously some Dutch testing, and make sure that, your urine and everything hormonally is obviously where it needs to be. Organs are functioning properly, right, to help in, digestion and the gut. But overall, it's just figuring out, do we have these issues? Do we deal with some of these, obviously internal problems that we just thought were normal when they're not normal? So that's, again, like more of the cause and effect for me has been, of course, my father getting cancer, right? And that was him overcoming it, and it just being me in the medical side of things, struggling and fighting with doctors and nurses and the system. And it just became a hit home for me. So for me, it was more of, how can I change what is going on in this world, especially here in the States? It's just a problem. It really is a problem. You guys might not have it as much there in Australia.
But not as much
have it here. It's a problem. Yeah. But hey, guys, it gives you an insight and recap of what Ali and I have been up to recently. I hope you get a little,
it's been busy, but it's been good. Actually, I've been really disconnected from my social media for the last like 2 weeks almost, just real quiet.
What social media?
I'm like on my stories. I haven't been really it's really been bad, but it's largely been coming out the back end of the show, decompressing, getting all my team for LA ready, and then I've just had so much stuff going on inside the business. business, and it's just been hectic, you know, like absolutely hectic. I had no time. So my lady,
no time though.
Lady actually messaged me and she's like, girl, we so gotta lift your game. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm not sorry.
Like, we know you all miss us. We'll be back. We needed our little downtime to just make sure our shit's together. If you need to get your shit together, get off social media. It bothers me when people are like, I still have all this to do. I can't do this. I'm like, but yet I know you spend this amount of time on social media because I literally see it, you know, so you can't tell me you don't have time, or just again, like we're going to have get your shit together.
Like I posted a video yesterday of like, this is the end of my build phase. It was from freaking Sunday. It gets posted on Thursday because I just really haven't been on top of my shit.
Ellie, I was supposed to do like an April month recap. We're in like week into May. I still haven't done the monthly recap of April. I mean, I suck. You guys can totally get on. I am so bad.
I feel you. I feel like there's so many other more important things, but it's still important. So we've got to do it. So anyways, everyone has been wondering where the hell we are. That's what we've been doing.
That's what we've been doing, y'all. Thank y'all for listening. And Allie, it's so good to see you, babe. It's so good to catch up with you and being able to, you know, obviously just get back on the same page, and we'll get back on rhythm, y'all. Let's get back onto getting some good topics.
Got some great guests lined up, so I can't wait for everyone to hear that. We'll actually be recording those episodes next week and the week after, so stay tuned. We've got some exciting stuff coming, and if you have any questions for us or you have anything you'd love us to cover off, please don't ever hesitate to DM us. We're always really open to your input, your feedback, your comments. You know, we love hearing from you.
The sweetest you guys are. Thank you all again for those sweet messages and just sweet comments you guys really do send us, because they are never unnoticed. And thank you all again for supporting us, and of course the podcast. We hope you guys enjoyed, you know, obviously just a little recap of what Allie and I's life has been hectic and crazy like. But until next time, guys, thank y'all for listening. Allie, much love.
Much love. Have a great weekend. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Queen Divas, Queens of Fitness podcast. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at Queen Divas Pod, on Twitter at Queen Divas 4, and follow our hosts on Instagram, Alicia at Alicia Gowans _WBFF Pro, and Steph at Stephanie Ayala 7. See you all next week.